Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning everyone. My name is Putri Intan Oktapiani.
My name is Selvia Putri.
Hello, I am Risma Dwi Aryanti.
My name is Tiara Salsabila.
Hello, my name is Asri and Luthfita.
Today, we are going to present our topic about sexual harassment. Alright, before I and my friends talk about sexual harassment, do you know what sexual harassment is? Did you know that the level of sexual harassment in Indonesia especially is also very high? Alright, if you can or hesitate to answer this question, keep watching this video until the end and let's see the illustration first.
So will I see you at that 3 o'clock?
Yeah, I'll be there. Oh, you got it.
I haven't had sex in a month.
Well, excuse me.
What school did you go to?
Arizona State.
I didn't know they had hot girls at ASU.
You see Lisa's dress today? Hell yeah, man. What's that thing, spray painted on?
I want to spray paint.
They promoted her? Mm-hmm. I know 5 guys more qualified than that.
Only 5.
According to Wikipedia, sexual harassment is unwelcome sex-related approaches, including requests for sex and other behaviors that verbally or physically refer to sex. Other than that, according to Australian Human Rights Commission, sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual conduct which makes a person feel offended, humiliated, and or intimidated where that reaction is reasonable in the circumstances. Sexual harassment can take various forms. It can involve unwelcome touching, hugging or kissing, staring or leering, suggestive, catcalling, sexual comments or jokes about someone's body in public or on social media, invite to have sex, spreading rumors about other people's sexual activity, touching someone's body parts without permission, and much more. Recently, there have been a lot of cases of sexual harassment in Indonesia, whether it's sexual harassment in public or on the internet. And even the most hype issue now is that of an ex-convict of sexual abuse of children and also an artist who has just been released from his prison term. He was allowed to appear on television by the Indonesian Broadcasting Commission or KPI. Isn't that very inappropriate and invites the anger of many people, right? Moreover, some people don't even care about this because of a lack of knowledge about sexual harassment. In addition, the data also proves that complaints of sexual violence to the National Commission for Women have increased drastically, around 16% from 1,300 cases in 2019 to around 2,000 cases in 2020. And the fact is, sexual harassment has nothing to do with the victim's clothes. Based on the sexual harassment survey conducted by the Safe Public Coalition or KRPA in 2019, which involved more than 62,000 respondents in Indonesia. Those who were victims of sexual harassment, it was not always people who were tight or revealing clothes. In fact, 17% used the hijab, 16% wore long sleeves, 18% were skirts and trousers, 14% wore school uniforms, and another 14% were loose-fitting clothes. Based on these facts and data, it is very important for us to understand what acts or violence refer to sexual violence or sexual harassment, so that we can be more aware of these things. Therefore, let's discuss what are the forms and solutions of sexual violence in the public and on the internet, the causes and consequences of sexual violence on victims.
The more we grow older, the more uncomfortable things come to me and all of you, one of which is catcalling or sexual harassment, which is the action of making a sexual comments to a victim who might be walking by on the street or public place. But occurrences such as rubbing, cracking, and staring are also considered into a sexual harassment. And another form is making a sexual gesture and cracking on the sexual comments or jokes towards you. Some are more likely to happen in a crowded space such as in public place. In fact, most of us will or have already to experience it in our lifetime. But unlucky, girls are most likely to experience it more than one event of sexual harassment in their daily lifetime. These occurrences has the significant impact on mental health and confidence of individuals who are affected. Instead of it, the victims of sexual harassment can suffer significant psychological effects, including anxiety, depression, headache, sleep disorder, weight loss or gain loss, nausea, lower self-esteem, and sexual dysfunction. They experience job-related costs as well, from job loss, decreased morale, and decreased job satisfaction. In addition, in a higher setting education, students of the victim sexual harassment would feel pressure to drop a class, change their major and minor, and experience the cycle and psychological distress. Overall, sexual harassment causing a tense and unproductive working and learning environment. Therefore, it reduces people to a sexual object and gives the impression that they don't have a control over their own bodies. However, most people try to rationalize and find logical answer for why this has happened to them, which in their opinion and that of others discredits the happenings. When we mention others, we don't only mean the victim's family members. We also mean authoritative people like the police, who they believe have the power to change the situation. Whoever it is, the victim misinterpretation and dramatization of the incident often leads them to simply let it go and not report it. However, it should not be the norm. As women, we should be able to express ourselves without fear of negative comments from others. And we should be confident to report any actions or behaviors that make us uncomfortable. In other words, there is no sexual harassment anymore, and for the time being, it could be rejected. And I have some recommendations to assist as a prevent such instances from occurring so regularly. If you notice that someone is experiencing harassment, please be helpful as well as maintaining your own safety. Help the victim by taking them to a safer place or by put yourself between them and the harasser, especially if the harasser is getting physical aggressive. Speaking up and asking about the situation you are witnessing can sometimes be enough to make the harasser stop. It's also critical that the general public become more aware of these circumstances. From that way, everyone will be more educated about the effect and dangers of sexual harassment for the victim. Moreover, if we all become more aware of this situation, we will have more knowledge and ability to observe and action on situations accordingly. Finally, to those that are a victim of harassment, please report it. Speaking up is the best way to ensure that something is being done to tackle the issue. The more it is reported, the less a normality it will be seen as. Everyone should understand the effects of sexual harassment on its victim is highly damaging, and it's not something that women especially should have to endure.
Many unpleasant events happens in cyberspace. One of them is sexual harassment. You think that sexual harassment can be only happen in real life, perhaps, but actually, sexual harassment can even happen anywhere. which is in cyberspace. If on the previous part you have started to gain awareness about sexual harassment in public, but in this part I would lead you to more conscious about cybersexual harassment. Sexual harassment is defined as unwanted sexual behavior that occurs on a digital platforms, and it is acknowledged as a form of sexual harassment. And these actions are involving digital content such as video, image, or message on a public or private cyber platforms. These actions can lead a person to feel threatened, ashamed, exploited, scared, upset, or the worst is trauma. Many of us may be unaware that we have been the victims of cybersexual harassment. Let us begin by becoming aware of the different types of cybersexual harassment behavior. There are some types of cybersexual harassment, such as sexualized bullying, sexually objectifying, and unwanted sexualization. On this occasion, I will be focusing on the last two kinds of cybersexual harassment, which are sexually objectifying and unwanted sexualization. Regarding to Barkey 1990, sexual objectification occurs when a woman's body or body parts are singled out and separated from her as a person, and she is viewed primarily as a physical object of male sexual desire. Active verbal sexual harassment is one of most common cybersexual harassment. Active verbal sexual harassment appears as offensive sexual messages directly toward the victim. Such message might include gender humiliating comments, sexual remarks, and dirty jokes. For example, go back to your natural place, the kitchen, or nipples make this chat room more interesting. Talking about sexual objectification, I have heard a bad experience about a girl who unknowingly became the sexual objectification victim of her boyfriend. The story begins once her boyfriend asks her to accompany him at night. He asks her to send him a selfie. She was not suspicious at the beginning of their relationship because she assumed that his boyfriend only wanted to keep her pictures that he can see when he missing her. But long story short, finally the girl knows that her boyfriend masturbated using her picture. A part of her body, which is her face, has used as a fantasy when her boyfriend was masturbating. This girl has been a victim of sexual objectification indirectly. What a shame and scared experience. Therefore, by knowing the types of sexual objectification, we can protect each other from being cybersexually objectifying victims. Protect yourself, protect your surrounding. The next types of cybersexual harassment is unwanted sexualization. According to the website ChildNet, unwanted sexualization occurs when a person receives unwanted sexual requests, comments, and content, altering images of a person to make them sexual, which are a form of unwanted sexualization. Some people, especially women, feel restless when they want to upload their photos on social media. This is because there are many irresponsible people. They use random photos of women to edit, and their faces are paired with indecent photos such as naked. Of course, this is extremely harmful to the victim because they will not know that the photo has been misused by this individual. This fact is very concerning, and it is no longer surprising if there are women who feel that their space in cyberspace is very limited. This is due to the rampant cases of cybersexual harassment that have occurred. Ironically, the rise of these cases does not teach much to society. Many of the people who explicitly blame the victims. Therefore, as human beings who still have a sense of empathy, let us expand our understanding of sexual harassment, protect the victim, and keep track of the perpetrator's punishment. Let us all work together to fight sexual harassment.
Sexual harassment can take many forms, but is usually divided into physical, verbal, or non-verbal forms, and can take in public or in online, such as in social media, and there has a bad impact for the victims. So, what's the psychological impacts of public sexual harassment? Sexual harassment in public places reduces an individual's freedoms to enjoy social life and can have a negative impact on feeling of safety in public areas. Being sexually harassed can be a degrading, humiliating, and harmful experience in and of itself. But the consequences are far-reaching because it can undermine one's confidence to move freely in public places. Furthermore, victims typically don't know their perpetrators, and it occurs most frequently in public places where the harasser can easily touch or catcalling. These types of incidents make victims feel unsafe and uneasy in public places. After experiencing sexual harassment, most women avoid going to public areas on a regular basis. Then, women are blamed for being sexually harassed, such as when wearing inappropriate clothing. As a result, young women must adjust their clothing and actions to enter public places comfortably. However, men have greater access to public places than women. People's self-esteem will suffer as a result. The victim will accept a negative social stigma. Some studies have found that sexual harassment victimization correlates with symptoms of anxiety in adolescent girls and boys. Cross-sectional data have linked sexual harassment victimization to other forms of mental illness outcomes among adolescents, such as higher level of self-harm, substance use, and depressive symptoms. Studying the problem of sexual harassment in public places is important for two reasons. Firstly, sexual harassment in public places is more prevalent than sexual harassment in workplace and educational institutes. And secondly, there are comparatively fewer researches that explore this. Sexual harassment is widespread in the streets and can be experienced by anyone and anywhere. Social harassment doesn't just happen in public, but in online like social media, sexual harassment will happen and also has the psychological impacts for the victims, such as the victim will be traumatized by social media, irritable, always feel unsafe, experiencing sleep disorder, nightmares, fear, shame, shock, frustration, blame or isolate itself, stress and depression. And in some cases, sexual harassment can also result in post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, especially when it leads to assault, rape, intimidation, or threatening rape to sexual abuse. A Swedish study found that online sexual harassment was associated with higher depressive symptoms in girls. So, what are some of the physical impacts? According to the American Academy of Family Physicians, some of the medical impacts associated with sexual trauma include chronic pain, pelvis back, headache, irritable bowel syndrome, sexual dysfunction, elevated blood pressure, and heartburn. These ailments may be initiated by psychological issues, but they are not imaginary. Psychological pain can lead to physical pain. The impact of sexual harassment is not to be underestimated. It's really dangerous. So that's why let's respect and protect each other and stop blaming the sexual harassment victims because it's not their fault.
So, the conclusion is sexual harassment is the act of making sexual commands to the victim. For example, catcalling, rubbing, groping, and staring are also considered sexual harassment. This incident has a significant impact on the mental health and self-confidence of the affected individual. This reduces people to sexual objects and gives the impression that they have no control over their own bodies. Sexual harassment can take many forms, but is usually divided into physical, verbal, or non-verbal forms, and can be carried out in public or through media such as the internet or the telephone. The impact of sexual harassment in public place is that it can reduce an individual's freedom to enjoy social life and can have a negative impact on feelings of security in public place. Being sexually harassed can be a demanding, humiliating, and dangerous experience, but the consequences are far-reaching as it can damage a person's confidence to move freely in public. Sexual harassment in public place is more common than sexual harassment in the workplace and educational institution. Sexual harassment is widespread on the streets and can be experienced everywhere, and reporting by male victims is extremely rare. Social harassment doesn't just happen in public, but online, like social media, sexual harassment will happen, which also has an impact. The impact that victims get is that they will be traumatized by social media, irritable, always feel insecure, experience sleep disturbances, nightmare, fear, shame, shock, frustration, blame or isolation, stress, and depression are physiological effects. And not only that, in some cases, sexual harassment can also lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, especially if it leads to assault, rape, intimidation, or threatening rape, the sexual harassment. There are also cyber harassment. Cybersexual harassment is defined as any act involving digital content like image, video, message on a public or private cyber platform. This action results in a person feeling threatened, embarrassed, fearful, exploited, irritated, sexual objectification, or discriminated against. There are also several types of cybersexual harassment such as sexual intimidation, sexual objectification, and unwanted sexualization. Therefore, sexual harassment can take many forms. This can involve 1. Unwanted touching, hugging, or kissing, use star or glance, 3. Pitched, 4. Catcalling, 5. Sexual comments or joke about someone's body, 7. Invite to have sex, 7. Spreading rumors about other people's sexual activity, and last, touching someone's body parts without permission. So, if we see someone being harassed, please help and keep ourselves safe. Help victims by taking them to a safe place or by putting ourselves between them and the abuser, especially if the abuser starts become physical aggressive. Thank you.